evening. Welcome to the Southbridge School Committee meeting, Tuesday, March 12th, 2024, in the McKinnon Council Chambers. Relative to Mass General Law 30A, Section 20F, and for the benefit of the public, this meeting is being recorded by both video and audio methods. Roll call.
Carla De La Cruz Davila.
Excused.
Kathy La Priori.
Present.
Andrew Murch.
Present.
Aaron DeMello. Present. Martina Shea.
Present.
John Shaw.
Excused.
Steve Kabinski.
Present.
We have a quorum. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Citizens Forum. Do we have anyone in the audience who would like to address the school committee tonight? Again, does anyone in the audience wish to address the school committee? Hearing none, do the minutes from the February meeting. We have 3 packets of papers today. It's more than, okay. It will be the minutes for the February 27th meeting. Yes.
In the announcement section on the second page, when Kathy's last name is misspelled, and then Southbridge is also misspelled.
That may be profound.
I also would like to clarify, I think applications should be dropped off at the high school and Bay Path. Is that correct, Kathy?
They have already been dropped off.
Oh, they have already been?
Yes.
Okay, then that's not a correction.
Okay. Any other? As you know, we don't approve the minutes. We just make any corrections that need to be made. Okay. Chairperson's announcements. I got some neat announcements. I can find my papers. We just received notice of the John and Abigail Adams scholarships winners for the Southbridge School. We have Brody Carlson, Daniel Castillo, Nathaniel DiPaolo, Haser Garcia, Kaylee Haskins, Nathan Howe, Palinda Koo, Angel LeBron, Justin Lee, Alyssa McQuiggan, Maya Ortiz, Christian Ortiz Torres, Danny Polino, Joan Sanchez, Nola Shanbaum, and Brady Spinelli. This is an amazing thing. I think we can roll a round of applause. You know that everyone has to take the MCAS scores, and the students who do the best in the school get the right to have a scholarship to one of the state schools. So hopefully these students will be able to take advantage of that and move into a lasting career of their choice. Also, we've got some other great news. Our cheerleaders, our senior cheerleaders, are going to the Nationals. I said that, you know, in honor of this, I would do a backflip, but I was advised against it by my doctor. Okay.
Madam Chair, if I may.
Yes.
I'd like to also add that the Southbridge cheerleaders finished 3rd in this year's state competition. That's what got them qualified for the nationals. So they did take third place overall for the state of Massachusetts. So
Okay, I missed that part, but
Yep.
I knew they were going to the nationals, and I think that's pretty special.
if I may encourage, let's try to work with DPW to get the sign up to change the entrance sign, because if you enter either way, the cheerleaders do have their previous accomplishments up
Okay.
when you enter town. So I think DPW is going to have to update that sign.
I think so. I think so. Okay. Next is item number 6, is to appoint Andrew Murch, Chair of the Budget Subcommittee. You would think this would be a very easy thing to do, but even as late as this afternoon, I was still on the phone trying to be sure that we did it absolutely correctly. Our policy, the school committee is a policy-making board. Our policy says that the chair appoints and the committee approves. So I, as chair, am appointing Andrew Murch, and we're going to need a vote. Would a show of hands be sufficient?
I believe somebody would still have to make a motion first.
Oh, okay. Would somebody else make the motion?
I'll move. Make that motion.
Kathy, will you second?
Second?
Okay. Again,
Discussion.
is the show of hands sufficient, or do we need a vote?
We
roll
would
call.
still, we could do a regular vote, but we still, it's up for discussion.
Okay. You're correct. I was pushing things along.
I guess I would just make the comment that I did have some concerns and did mention to Mr. Murch some concerns in this vein. Just that he had been very active lately in some of the things within our community, and that I was a little bit concerned that this step of appointing him to chair of the budget subcommittee could be taken as approval on the part of our whole committee for some of the stands that he's taken recently. I personally will be voting no for that reason. So,
Any other discussion? Mr. Murch?
Thank you, Madam Chair. First, I would like to thank you for the appointment or asking me to chair this budget subcommittee, which will be the first subcommittee of the school committee in, I believe, over 5 years. So
Longer than that, I think.
it's good to see that we are moving forward with that. I spoke with Vice Chair DeMello over the phone prior, and she did bring up that there may have been some issues and clarity as to my comments and what role they were made. Personally speaking, being a member of the school committee is already a tough task in and of itself. But to be a member and also be a parent of a student in this district makes it tougher when you're trying to stand up for what you believe is right for your child. If there's any misconception that the comments that I have been making have been that in my role as a school committee member, I do want to clarify that as a school committee member, our job is to try to work with the administration as much as possible, even in our circumstance, whether we like it or not. Whether we agree with the situation or not, we still have to try to work together as best as we can. I have reached out to Dr. Villar. The earliest he was able to schedule a meeting with me was April 23rd, so I will be meeting with him at that point, where I personally will be discussing attendance with him. But my comments that I have made in the public eye are coming from me as a parent. I have my frustrations, but at the end of the day, as a member of the school committee, I can only encourage parents, students, and faculty and staff that if there are any issues, there are avenues through our administration where you can file for complaints or raise questions or concerns. The way, even not under receivership, complaints like that have of the nature that have been brought up in various community forums as well as online, those are to be filed with the district, whether you're under receivership or school committee controlled. That is, it has to be worked through for the district. So if that point wasn't made clear, that I am not acting in any way to try to go around Dr. Villar and the administration, that is not the case. If you have complaints, work within the means that we have in order to make sure that they are rectified. I can't do anything about it. So I want to make sure that that was fervent and clear, and I look forward to my appointment. Our first meeting if appointed tonight, our first meeting will be a training that, as an open meeting, will also be open to the public as well. And after some point under which Dr. Villar does present the budget to us, I would like to review that with that subcommittee. So those are my goals, is to use this as an educational venture. And I hope that as we move further and the chair appoints more people to other various subcommittees, that be the main goal of the subcommittees of the Southbridge School Committee. Thank you.
Okay. Any other comments?
Have there been any other activities, Mr. Mello brings a good point, where your presence alone is identified, rightly so, as a school committee member and not just a parent? And if so, right, wouldn't that affect, would that affect moving forward relationships with those who are currently in positions of power?
So it's very, like I said, it is very difficult to be a dad and be a member of the school committee. Sure. As a parent, my son is my reason. So is my reason for being involved in education from the time he was 2 in Head Start all the way up until now. So I've never not been involved in my son's education. It makes it tough. I am identified as a member of the school committee just in general. That's where I've been most in the public eye. But I'm also the chairman of the Redevelopment Authority. So I can be misidentified one way or another. We've, as an RDA chair, we've done a lot throughout the town as well. I've made public appearances as the chair as well. So it does bear that it can be misconstrued. I will say that, in my opinion, as long as I provide that clarity, that, my actions or my opinions are that me speaking as a parent, and if there's any misconception, I need to make sure that that's rectified and make sure that it's clear that as a school committee member, I have a different role than I do as a parent, but that doesn't mean that I can't speak out as a parent. It makes it tough, but not impossible. And Dr. Villar and I have had a working relationship since before I started on the school committee. I met with him a couple times before I joined in 2019, before I became a member. So him and I have a working relationship, and we have been critical of each other. I do believe this one is going to be a little bit tougher to get a hold of, but I've worked with Dr. Villar for over 6 years. And I personally think that it's something we can overcome, because at the end of the day, it's about improving the district. What can I do to help? This next meeting, I want to address attendance. That's my primary focus of this next meeting. Obviously, it's also to discuss my comments, but I still want to approach this from a business standpoint. Here's the areas we can improve. What can I do? As long as I provide clarity, that's the best that I can do, but I don't feel like I'm not allowed to make comments as a parent. I just need to make sure that I provide clarity in that I'm not speaking as a member of the school committee, I'm speaking as a father. Though being a dad is my role for joining, it's hard to separate that, and I just have to make sure that it is clear and concise as much as I can from then moving forward. I think that I've done a decent job of trying to clarify my positions, but if not, I again want to make sure that it's fervently clear when I'm sitting behind this dais or I'm talking to administration. It is a completely different mindset that I approach it with, and it's a completely different role entirely than me spouting off on Facebook about how upset I am. It's hard, but I just have to do the best that I can. But I'm not going to not say something if I feel like something needs to be said.
Yes?
So can I just clarify, Mr. Murch, that from this point forward, your goal would be to encourage people to work with the administrative chain of command, like if they have an issue, to go to the administration and work with them to resolve issues before taking secondary action, and that your commitment would be to the success and the forward motion, the improvement of our schools, and the the success and improvement of our students ultimately.
Absolutely, and that's never not been the goal. When we held the first community, when I participated in holding the first community forum on February 3rd, it was to give parents a place to vent. There was so much pent-up anger, you could tell, and just frustration that, we organized something to give parents an opportunity to vent. When we held the second one, the second community forum, it wasn't the purpose of that was to educate parents and members of the community on the processes that are in place at Southbridge Public Schools and what forms and resources you have to utilize in order to address your concerns. Because if nothing's put on paper, it doesn't exist. So we've all, from the moment we had the forum on February 3rd, we encouraged people, go to the school's website. You can find all of the forms that you need to in order to file either a Title IX complaint or a bullying complaint or any sort of concern that you have. All of the resources are available online, and that we would continue to push that. And we have. And we're going to continue to do that if parents feel the need to, because the administration is responsible not only for handling those issues, but continuing to progress Southbridge. And there have been many a thing that this administration has done that have been extremely beneficial, like the dual language program. You have to give credit where credit is due, and you have to acknowledge that his task is to make sure that our kids are getting the best education they can. That doesn't necessarily come without criticism, but it still needs to be collaborative. And sometimes, I'll admit, sometimes he's been critical of me and actually taught me some things, and I've moved forward with it. But at the end of the day, the commitments to the students of Southbridge, because if I'm not committed to making those kids get a better education and that staff to have a better work environment, my son's not going to benefit from it. Call it selfish, but at the end of the day, if the receiver is willing to work with me, because I know I'm willing to work with him, and any other administration, if they so choose, with receiver's permission, to branch out and reach out for assistance, then my commitment would be to helping in any facet that I could to make sure that whatever's asked of me is helping the students. And I have no quandaries with that whatsoever.
Any other comments? Nope.
Just thank you for clarifying, and that if you actually are committed to helping our district move forward and progress and do well, then I would have no problem actually voting for you. So, thank you.
All right.
Were you saying earlier that, do you remember the last time you had an actual meeting with Dr. Villar? I've just been on these.
It's been a while. I had life events that took me kind of out, and as you saw, like last year, I wasn't able to participate as much. I had some personal things that I did have to take care of. I participated where I could, and I still kept in communication with the chair. But the last meeting I had was probably in 2022 with him, so it's been a little bit, but that wasn't because he was dismissive, because anytime I've asked for a meeting, he's always said yes. Okay. I've never had an issue. I just had a lot. I had family members die. I had family members get sick over the course of the year. I had some personal things that I had to deal with. So it didn't change my commitment to helping as best as I could, but it did kind of impede me from being able to meet with him. But now that the dust has settled in life, and life is just lifing itself right now, now I have an opportunity to meet with him. The moment I knew I had a chance, I emailed him and reached out. So this is the first that I'm able to meet with him, and I look forward to it.
Okay, thanks.
We have a vote.
Do we have to call for the question?
I think we're ready to vote.
So is discussion ended?
Kathy? Yes. Andrew?
Yes.
Aaron?
Yes.
Martina Shea, yes.
Yes.
Okay. Just a note to the entire committee, this is just the beginning. Throughout the rest of this year and all of next year, we will be adding more and more committees, and they're going to be involving time. I know myself, I have sold people on coming to the school committee and being part of the school committee because, we only meet once a month, and usually they're only about a half hour long. Now that we are moving towards ending receivership and becoming a full functioning school committee, there are going to be lots and lots of meetings. We're a small committee, so that means that all of us are going to have to be on committees, and so probably you can expect a meeting at least once a week during the month. Yes? Erin reminded me that we're, under our policies, we're supposed to give you good guidance. We're supposed to tell you that training and consulting with the school committee on budgets and issues is going to be, for this year, your main function, is getting us up and running as a committee. You're going to be the leader in what a school committee budget and other subcommittee looks like. Your duties are to meet at least once between now and the end of the year, to view the training by Tracy Novak. I would also suggest that you look at the end of last year's budget and the beginning of this year's, which, by the way, Dr. Villar will be presenting to the school committee on March the 21st, which is a Thursday. Have you picked your team yet?
I have, and I would like to extend a big thank you for joining this. So our members of the Budget Subcommittee are going to be Kathy Lapriori and Frank Kabinski. They will be joining as that three-member board, and I will be reaching out to them regarding some dates to schedule that training. It is about an hour and a half for the video itself. The training is about an hour and a half long. But I'll be reaching out to you guys with dates that'll work best for you, so that way we can make sure that it's convenient as well, because I want to make sure you can take as much information as you can from that. It was a very good training session we had here. When I was the chairman in 2021, I got MASC Tracy Novick, who's with the MASC, to come out and do the 70 on 70 budget training, which is part of the training you get when you join the school committee, part of the requirements you have to take. She actually did a Southbridge catered 70 on 70 using Southbridge's numbers to be able to break it down. And I'll be providing you with copies of that particular fiscal year's budget as well, so that way you can see the correlation between the foundation and how it was and what actually came to be through the course of that year. So,
Do you know where that will be?
It'll be in Town Hall, room here,
okay.
to be determined.
Okay, sure.
I was also going to suggest to Carla and to John that they attend the meeting with the training, because they were not here when we had the training. It was very helpful for me, I know, and I assume that it would be very helpful for them. Okay, item 7. I'm sorry that you people don't have this on your agenda. It's the one that I posted downstairs while our very, very helpful Mika takes care of me, but she was enjoying her vacation. We need to have what is called a committee of the whole. A committee of the whole is where the entire school committee, it's not a regular meeting, it is a meeting where we function as a subcommittee. We need to start talking about writing a letter to the Department of Ed the way Holyoke did. Their letter was about 4 pages long, telling the state why we should end receivership. With the changeover in the state, the Department of Ed, things are changing, things are moving, and I think we should be on board to say, you know, this is part of the law, we've checked this box. I think perhaps we should set the date for that after we go through the next month of budget time and you start your committee. So I'm just going to make that an informational with no vote tonight, but I would like you all to think about it. Any comments? Yes.
I was reviewing the letter that was, you sent us a letter a while ago,
Yes.
and I was able to read over it a few times. And in the manner that they wrote the letter, they had a lot of data-based evidence incorporated into that. I believe if we're going to have a serious discussion about writing this, a discussion about the letter is, I think, a good way to start. But I believe, in my personal opinion at least, that we really need to kind of do a deep dive as a committee ourselves into a lot of the data that's also available through the state's website, DESE's website, as well as reaching out to Dr. Villar for some of the statistics as well, because they have data that shows improvement. And before we go and write a letter, let's make sure that we are trending in the right direction. Because if we're not, then we need to try to work with Dr. Villar as best as possible to see, what can be changed in order to trend that back upward. So in these discussions, we need to make sure that we have all-encompassing data that DESE's going to want to, that DESE would utilize under Chapter 69(1)J in order to put us under receivership. We need to compare that data from when we were under receivership, before we went under receivership until currently, and make sure that there's an upwards trajectory. Because if there isn't, that letter's not going to really have a lot of cause.
Yes.
I was just going to say that I kind of agree very strongly with Mr. Murch's thought. And I had been thinking before this last weekend that we really didn't have a leg to stand on, and there was kind of hardly any point to us even writing a letter. But I did this last weekend, look at the turnaround plan, to your point, that if we look at our old turnaround plan, it does have some of the information. Most of what I saw was a little bit old. It was from maybe a year or two ago, so I don't know if we have an updated
No, that should only be
copy of
updated. The one that's last year is the most recent. The turnaround plans, when the commissioner designates as a chronically underperforming district to continue the receivership, it needs to come with an encompassing turnaround plan. That plan has to be effective for no more than 3 years. So that's kind of the rotation that the receivership's been on, is it's updated every 3 years. So last year we were renewed, so that turnaround plan is going to be the most up-to-date.
So what I was looking at in the turnaround plan, it had like benchmarks for each year, I think, in it. Anyway, the point that I probably should be making right now is just if we bring that turnaround plan, that would at least give us some data to go on. And I was surprised how many of them we actually seemed like we were achieving at least some of those boxes. So maybe we have more than I had thought. So.
That's why I thought that we needed to do a committee of the whole so we could really discuss and find out exactly where we needed to be on this. Also, we have our quarterly reports that are on the website to look at. Dr. Villar has given us tons and tons of information, and then we would know which questions to do, as you said, both to Dr. Villar and to the state, and then we would write the letter. I didn't anticipate it as being a one-shot. We sat down and picked all the right words and put them in a letter and sent them off. I thought this would be a work in progress. Okay. So we will schedule that right after budget session because we have the budget meeting with Dr. Villar, and then we have the budget meeting with the town council. So we will wait till we've done that. I also have had requests to look at the school committee rules. And all of you, someplace in one of your packets, have the Code of Ethics, which is part of our policy book. It's also part of the book that the Massachusetts Association of School Committees gives us to, yeah, that's it. This one. Well, they're exactly the same. It's exactly the same. When we do a policy, we look at all of the information available from the state, from the laws, and we rely heavily on the Massachusetts Association of School Committees because they're the ones who can have the wherewithal to gather all of that information. So our code of ethics are exactly right now what has been suggested by the Massachusetts Association of School Committees. The first section, I will just read it quickly. A school committee member in his or her relationship with the community, this is our relationship with the community, realizes that his or her primary responsibility is to the children, recognizes that his or her basic function is policy making and not administrative. Remember that he or she is one of a team and must abide by and carry out all committee decisions once they are made. Be well informed concerning the duties of a committee member on both local and state level. Remember that he or she represents the entire community at all times. Accepts the office of committee member as a means of unselfish service with no intent to, quote, play politics in any sense of the word or to benefit personally from committee activities. The one that leapt out at me was that our function is policy making, and since we don't even have a policy committee, we are a policy making board, and we don't have a policy committee, so that will be the next committee that I will be establishing. Any comments on any of these guidelines? Yes.
I just, obviously, we're on the receivership, so if we establish a policy committee, it would be more for, just training and review of existing policies, or?
We would review the existing policies. The book comes in sections, and normally speaking, as far as I understand it, school committees do like one section at a time. I would anticipate that there would not be huge changes, but we would look and we would see if there was any changes, then we would have to bring them to Dr. Villar because he is, in essence, the school committee. If he agrees to the changes, then the changes would be made. I would like to see at least our dates updated from, well before, in some cases before receivership, so that, obviously this ethics is right from the Massachusetts Association of School Committees, and very likely we would make no changes. But our page would say 2024 instead of 2014 or whatever it says.
2007.
2007. It's even worse. Okay, any other comments? Okay. Again, that's time to be determined. I think we get through the budget session and get going on the Rules Committee, yes?
Are we going to continue with the remainder
Oh,
of
I'm
the
sorry.
ethics? 'Cause,
I'm sorry,
I mean,
yes.
I can take over for the second section if you want.
Okay, go right ahead.
All righty. So, school committee member in his or her relations with his or her school administration should endeavor to establish sound, clearly defined policies which will direct and support administration, recognize and support the administrative chain of command, and refuse to act on complaints as an individual outside of the administration, give the chief administrator full responsibility for discharging his or her professional duties and hold him or her responsible for acceptable results, and to refer all complaints to the administrative staff for solution and only discuss them at committee meetings if such solutions, the rest is cut off.
You skipped C.
Did you miss?
There is, no. I'm on our copy.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you recorded, so
All right. Well,
you said they were both the same.
I
so-
thought they were both exactly the same.
Because this copy right here is
The school committee,
This is
yeah.
what we operate under. That's what I thought we were discussing.
Yes.
is our specific
You're right, I'm
ethics.
sorry.
Okay. It says, the refer all complaints to the administrative staff for solution and only discuss them if, at school committee meetings, if such solutions, and if you'll bear with me a moment, it looks like it's cut off a bit. So I'm just trying to make sure that we are clear and concise. If such solutions fail. So that's our responsibilities in relation with the school administration.
Okay, it's odd they left out C, act only on the recommendation of the chief administrator in all matters of employment or dismissal of school personnel. This may be before when school committees still had some say in hiring and firing, whereas we do not anymore. Which is another reason why we need to update our policy book. Okay, you were going to, do you have something you wanted to say on it, or?
As far as, I mean, it's pretty clear, and I can, the way ethics are written is not to be left up to interpretation, it's to be read literally. So when we're reviewing our rules, including ethics, we just have to keep in mind that they're not meant to be interpreted in one way or the other. It's meant to be a clear and concise rule. So as far as, making sure that there's an understanding amongst the members of the committee as well as the members of the community, that our responsibility is to work with the administration and refer complaints. Let it be clear that doesn't mean that you can't complain to us. If you want to vent, we are all here to serve you. But understand at the end of the day, we are going to refer you to the administration. But that doesn't mean that we can't hold their feet to the fire on a resolution. But at the end, it is up to your site level admin, and then pushing it further to the director of either elementary or secondary education for the district, depending on how old your student is, and then moving up the chain to Dr. Villar. So that would be the chain of command, and understanding that we're here to help push you in that direction and guide you. We're not here to make the solution, we're here to help lend assistance to the solution.
Steve, would you like to try number 3?
Sure. 3, a school committee member in his or her relations with fellow committee members should: A, recognize that action at official meetings is binding, and that he or she alone cannot bind the committee outside such meetings. B, realize the statements or promises should not be made regarding how he or she will vote on matters that will come before the committee. C, uphold the intent of executive sessions and respect the privileged communication that exists in executive sessions. D, not withhold pertinent information on school matters or personnel problems, either from members of his or her own committee or from members of other committees who may be seeking help and information on school problems. Lastly, E, make decisions only after all facts on a question have been presented and discussed.
I'm having a little trouble with D, not withhold pertinent information on school matters or personnel problems either from members of his or her committee or from members of other committees who may be seeking help and information on school problems.
I think if I may give it a shot to try to break it
Yeah.
down for you a little bit. I think what that means is like, so we all get letters from parents, emails, comments, phone calls, whatever the case may be. Generally speaking, we refer those to the receiver. But if there are, letters from members of the community or parents in ways that we can provide solutions to aid and assist the district, that's something that needs to be communicated with the committee as a whole, not just with either the officers or with select personnel on the board. It would be everybody. So if somebody says like, hey, I'm holding we're holding a policy discussion so for the public, if the district's saying that that they're having that and they tell you not telling the community or the rest of the not telling the committee would be a violation of that. You would have to inform the committee that this would be occurring, or any communication thereof regarding anything that would help or assist or provide information to either us or the community. You have to put out in the public and to the members. You can't just hold it to yourself.
It just seems that you get involved in not mentioning the superintendent, not mentioning the administration. It seems it would be one item I would choose to work on. Yes?
Just a thought that this discussion is kind of helping me realize that it would be really helpful if we had like someone from the Association of School Committees or the receiver or someone here who's knowledgeable and could help kind of direct our discussions and questions a little bit more as we move forward in trying to go through our policies. So.
It's going to be a very, very fun year next year. It's going to be lots and lots of fun.
Madam Chair, if I may,
Yes.
I requested this agenda item. Well,
Yes.
actually, we half requested. It was proposed as, just to review the ethics in our last meeting, and then I wanted to amend it to go through our entire rule book. Why are we still only reviewing just the code of ethics? I'm wondering because there are things in those rules that would help us in how our meetings function that that's why I requested it.
Oh, yes.
I was just going to say, the truth is that we forgot to make copies of anything, and these were the copies that happened to be in our agenda from last time. So that's what we're going through. So that's kind of our fault. We fell down on the bandwagon on that, so I apologize.
The May 9th meeting, could you please text me exactly what you want, the documentation, since you and I both are computerless at the moment, that we could get, so I'll know exactly what documents you want provided.
I'll email them to you.
Okay.
Make sure you have them so we can
Yes, and
have them for our next meeting.
I'll have Miko make copies for everybody so everybody knows what page we're on and what we're going to be talking about.
Okay.
All right.
If we're going to do that, could, in the rules with new member orientation that I had brought up the last meeting for things that we're supposed to be provided hard copies for, let me see here. Let me just get. So I have this. There's links to this. However, anybody can view our policies and our rule books online on the school's website. It is kind of halfway convoluted to look at it because everything is its own individual document and folder under the policies folder, but all of our rules are on there. Part of what I was looking at when I was addressing this in the last meeting was that we get the communications that we were supposed to get on member orientation, and that includes a full copy of our rules and our policy book. That's in our policies as a school committee that we get those. So if you could work with Ms. Miko and maybe see if we can get those new member orientation documents, whatever we're still allowed to get under receivership, because I know the collective bargaining is supposed to be in there, and we are not privy to that anymore because we don't do the negotiation. That's done by the receiver. So that's done under executive session with the receiver. So we're not privy to that. That's confidential information. But everything else, I don't see, if maybe Ms. Miko could help us, just get us all copies of that for our next meeting. I think that would be most beneficial. I can email you the documents, but if she could go through and help us with putting the policy book and everything together, I think that would be beneficial for everybody here.
Can I ask a question?
Mm-hmm.
Are you wanting hard copies of all of those provided for everyone, Mr. Murch?
Well, it's in our policies that everybody's supposed to be provided with it, so that everybody will be provided with a copy of. And copy, when this was written, and adopted in 2000, varies between 2007, 2015. The premise was a hard copy and not an electronic copy.
Okay. Just for clarification, I know at our last meeting with Dr. Villar, he said that in the welcome letter that is sent to all new members, that there are links provided to all of those documents. I honestly don't remember them personally, but so you're wanting actual hard copies to go to everyone as opposed to just sending everyone links to all of that.
Correct. I think that's going to be most beneficial, as this body moves forward, as the chair continues to provide this information. I know you guys admittedly kind of dropped the ball today, but you guys can pick it back up and keep running with it. As we provide these things, I think us having hard copies, since we're in essentially this is a learning process for all of us. I think having the hard copy is going to allow us to take notes. Every time we get a presentation, I see you taking notes because you're ready to ask questions. I do the same thing. So I think having the paper copies will allow us to put that visual more there and take notes as we go along. Especially, we're going to be going through this as a kind of like half presentation, half discussion. So I think that's just going to be the most beneficial as far as us learning and moving forward. Not with all of us went to school before the digital age, so let's try to learn the way we used to first before we try to come up to 2024.
In this case, I'm going to very strongly disagree with Mr. Murch. The policy book is this thick. Spending the taxpayers' money to make 7 copies of a book that has not been updated in 15 to 20 years, to me is an egregious waste of money. We are in the 21st century. We have to come up to the 21st century. We can look them up online. If we have an issue with one of them, as when we start to do policy, we will have 1 section or 2 sections printed off for that meeting, make the changes, bring them to the committee, have them published. The teacher's contract is in the website. The teacher's contract is this thick. I know that for personal fact because I personally typed one once. The budget presentation from Dr. Villar is usually about this thick. His update on his quarterly report is usually about this thick. I keep suggesting to leave out some of the pictures, but it's still about this thick. That would give us about this much paperwork. I think we need to be responsible citizens, and I'm assured that our historical and native highway people and all of that do not want us chopping down that many trees. We can learn. Perhaps next time it would be beneficial if we all got a Chromebook with all of this information loaded on it. That might be an effective way to do it. But at this point, I personally will not support having that much paper printed for me.
Then with all due respect, Madam Chair, it is our rules, it's the way we have to operate that we're provided that. And I don't necessarily disagree with your opinion, but as a governing board, we need to make that change. That we, it says provided a copy of. And that is, when they were written, that was meant to be a hard copy. So we as a board should adopt a rule change, to propose the rule change and adopt the rule change. But until that rule is changed, we should follow the rules. And then to the second, 7 Chromebooks at $300 a pop is $2,100. A box of ream, a paper, and a toner, I know for a fact from W.B. Mason, is less than $150. I understand that it seems like it's a lot more than it was, but we buy those kinds of goods in bulk, and we expect that. The budget is, for the school committee, for us, we can print out stuff, and we're supposed to be provided that to begin with. I would love to go through our rules and change a bunch, and you're not necessarily wrong, but until those rule changes are made, we need to operate under those rules. And, that's what's governing us until we change it. And we can change our rules as we want. Our school committee rules themselves. And we can change those without permission from the receiver. That's just what governs us. We can make a motion, after we can go through the rule change process as laid out. But, as long as we go through that process, it has no bearing on the policy that we're making, has no bearing on the curriculum that we're utilizing, and has no bearing on the fiscal management of the district. A rule change is just a rule change. We can change the rules as we see fit, but we have to go through the proper process and channels to do that. So until that rule is changed, we should follow it and have hard copies of what was recommended under new member orientation in our rules.
Any other comments? Mm-hmm. Yes?
I just don't know. That phrase of providing, there's no language there that I'm hearing that distinguishes one type of documentation or another. You're making an assumption based on when it was written, which doesn't really, I don't see how you could apply that. It doesn't say which type, which is good because it's open to either. If there's a section that we need to go over, that seems more useful. I think what would happen as a result of this overage is people aren't going to use it. They're just going to put it aside. They're not going to use it. It's a good idea to take notes, but I think, humanly speaking, we're only going to take notes on a very short, small section at a time. And even then, it seems like that would happen in a committee meeting, not at a general meeting of the school committee.
Our town councilors are provided with copies of the town charter, the rules, all provided hard copies when they come in, and they are thick. The town council operates under far more rules in the way they have to than we do. So I don't think it's a far reach, to follow the town council's lead. And that's the precedent that they have set for governing bodies here. I know as the redevelopment authority, I provide everything. Make sure any new members that we get, which to be fair, we haven't gotten any in quite some time. But new members get a copy of the urban renewal plan, a hard copy, which is pretty detailed. And they also get copies of Chapter 121B, which governs the redevelopment authorities. And they also get the part of our chart. They also get the part of our charter that governs us and the rules therein. So I do provide hard copies to our new members. So it's just my experience with working within that's been the standard, is that's all provided at least once in a hard copy. You lose it, then I gave you a copy. That's your responsibility. Get the email and deal with it then. But I don't have a computer right now. I have to look everything up on a phone, and some of these documents don't load properly that are on the school's website for the rules. And I'm not in a means to go run out and buy a Chromebook right now, to be fair, So I think hard copies ensure that everybody has equal, open, and fair access to making sure that they can read and review our rules and policies. Our chair just admitted she's kind of computerless as well, so not having access to the technology can inhibit members now and members in the future. So I think, like I said, until that rule is changed, we should follow the precedent that's been set by the town council and the way that our rules are written, is that we're provided a copy.
I don't think it requires a change because we still
Well,
don't know if it's digital or, so you're talking about making
But
a
then,
change
so-
that isn't there. And when you give documentation to your committees, is that because you feel it's effective or because it's part of the official document orientation for these people to have such?
A lot of it is based on the documentation that we are to have it, and then what isn't is based in precedent that's set by the town council. They get a hard copy of everything. And honestly, the precedent Dr. Villar has set. Everything, every presentation he gives us, every change, he does give us paper copies, thick books. He's printed us those spiral-bound books for the budget every year. He's done that several times, gotten us 7 copies. So it's not far from the standard that we've been operating on for years anyhow. And again, I personally don't have access to a great functioning piece of technology to be able to access all of this. I've only got some of the PDFs here. I'm going to have to go through a bunch more as I can on my phone. But I don't have the ability to print it out. I don't have the ability to easily and identifiably look up everything. And I'm not thinking about just members now, but in the future. So I guess a rule change doesn't need to be made from your perspective. I can understand that. You've made a very good point, and I see that point. But maybe, I just think for right now we should operate under the precedent.
Kathy, any comment?
I agree with Andrew, totally.
Okay.
I think for those who are in a quandary at the moment who need paper, certainly that's viable. It's not out of the question. I just don't think it's required for everyone. If it's offered, maybe that's the other way to take this. All right, Miss or Mr., we need to provide you with this. In what form would you like it?
Yeah, I think that's reasonable. Absolutely. I personally would like paper copies of everything if that be the case, just because I'm out of technology for right now. Once I do, I wouldn't have an issue with an electronic copy necessarily, but until I get a pay raise, I'm kind of stuck with what I got. So.
Sure.
Okay. No vote is needed on that at this time. Any other issues to come before the committee? The next meeting, we actually have 2 scheduled. One on March 21st, which will be somewhere in this building. Dr. Villar did not indicate which room it would be in, but it will be the presentation of the budget to the school committee at a later date at the choosing of both the school department and the town council will be the presentation of the budget to the town council. Our regularly scheduled meeting is going to be April 9th. I'm zipping through everything at right here in the council chambers. Anything else?
Because I'm a dad. Happy birthday to Allison.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn? So moved. Second? Second? I was going to say, nobody's going to
3
second
seconds.
adjourning. We're going to stay here all night. Okay. The meeting is adjourned at 7:58. We'll talk to Dr. Villar about getting you some solid paperwork.